Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBears Casino. Ronnie Rance alongside Tommy Krysan. TK joining us today over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. What's the date of today, Tommy? Is today the 15th?
Wednesday the 15th.
Yeah, so we are halfway through the month of October. We are headed towards Halloween. We're headed towards Thanksgiving. We're headed towards the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame golf tournament, which is November 16th, 17th at LeBears on the 16th for the party, 17th for the golf over at U Club. So go check it out online. Go check it out over there at lasportshall.com. And we hope to see you at our celebrity event. Going to be a lot of fun. All right, Tommy. LSU at Vanderbilt. This is unlike any game that we have ever seen in the history of the program between LSU and Vanderbilt, in the sense that both teams are 5-1, both teams are ranked. Both teams are playing in Nashville, where the tickets aren't just $30. They actually have a real number attached to them. I'm sure it'll be a sold out venue. But there's something else that's unique about this LSU Vandy game.
Yeah, well, Vanderbilt has played 78 football games since 1978 against a team in the top 10. This is the first time they're favored. First time they're favored against a top 10 team since 1978. Wow.
Yeah, I mean that's all you need to know. The line is not really moving. They're 2.5 point favorite. That's what it's been all week. The over under the point total has, I guess, come down. It was 49.5, and now it's 48.5. Is that correct?
Yeah, it moved down a point. I'm not sure what all that's about. Some money came in, I guess. But yeah, and obviously an 11 a.m. kick Saturday, which will push us on radio from 9 to 11. And we'll tell you more about that Friday. But yeah, Vanderbilt favored by 2.5 against LSU.
24-21. That's 45 points. You're a winner. So 27-21. You're a winner. I mean, I do think both offenses are going to struggle in this game. I do like the under, even at 48.5. I liked it obviously more at 49, but even at 48.5, I would have to say you got to take the under based on the body of work of what we've seen from these defenses and really the lack of offense from LSU. I think uh, Alabama was able to shut down Pavia on their home turf. Might be a little different for LSU defense up there in Nashville on the road with 11 a.m. But still, I think Vanderbilt is more going to pound you, keep the ball away from LSU offensively, pick up a first down, run the clock. I think that's going to be more their mindsets. I just look for a grinded out, low scoring game in this one. So I would still stay with the under. Um, the the New Orleans Saints are on the road at the Bears. Uh, Bears are interesting. Some weeks they look like okay, they turned the corner. This is a different Bears team, and others like okay, it's the same Bears team. I do think Caleb Williams is a better player this year than he was last year. There's value in throwing him out there, letting him look bad at times, but let him play the whole season. Kind of the Peyton Manning effect where they did that. He threw more interceptions than any rookie ever, and that record still stands. But it paid off obviously the next year. I think you were seeing that with the Bears.
Yeah, I agree. Coin flip, use your word there. You don't know what you're going to get, but that's kind of almost across the board in the NFL. You kind of don't know what you're going to get because we've seen some results, a handful of weeks into the season that made you scratch your head a little bit. And of course, there's some results that you expected, but it's going to be a challenge for the Saints to try to get another win. It'll be on the road. The Bears will be ready. They're feeling good about themselves. And, 4.5 point favorite. We'll see.
Yeah, Bears are 4.5 point favorite. The over under total in that one is 47.5. Um, the so you got this matchup of these 2 year quarterbacks this week between Williams and Rattler, these 2 second-year quarterbacks that were in the same class last year together. Both of them doing battle. On the other side this weekend, you're going to have the two old men, Flacco and Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco combined, they're about 100, about 80 years old between them. I think Rodgers is like 40, 41, something like that. Flacco's 38, 39. So, I mean, you got two salty Warriors, veterans going at it when the Steelers take on the Browns. Oh, no. Who's Flacco with?
Bengals.
Bengals. Steelers take on the Bengals in the AFC North matchup. So it just goes to show you, you got these two young pups in their second year versus these old dinosaurs. and Flacco and Aaron Rodgers. Oh, by the way, Aaron Rodgers having a nice little laugh right now. He's only had one loss on the season, so he's playing well up there in Pittsburgh. Major League Baseball, TK. We're headed towards the liberal World Series, Los Angeles versus Seattle. Two liberal communities, if there ever were one. Dodgers look fantastic. We'll talk about them in a minute. They took care of the Brewers last night, 5-1 in Milwaukee. They're up 2-0 in that series as it returns to Los Angeles, as it'll go to Los Angeles for the first time. Same thing. Seattle goes to Toronto, wins 2 over there in Toronto. So you got to believe both series, when the teams are coming home, look like it'll be Seattle and LA.
It really does. I mean, up 2 games is done. It is best of 7, so some baseball yet to be played. But I paid attention to Seattle all year long. Their bullpen is just unbelievable. They got the pitching, they got the hitting. Possible MVP in Cal Raleigh, who hit 60 bombs as a switch hitter. We all know that story. But it's all about the pitching, and Seattle has it, LA has it. And they're in command right now. And be interesting as game 3 tonight in Seattle. And then LA will be at home tomorrow night. There'll actually be 2 games tomorrow on the League Championship Series matchups.
Yamamoto, am I saying it correctly?
Yamamoto.
Yamamoto, last night, complete game in the playoffs, complete domination. Tommy, the Major League Baseball is different than the NFL because there's no salary cap. There's a luxury tax. Over a certain threshold, you pay a tax, but you can spend whatever you want as long as you're just willing to pay a high tax. And the Dodgers have locked up all these superstars for long-term deals. They're spending more money than anybody. And a lot of times those things don't always pay off. I mean, if you're a Yankee fan or a Red Sox fan, you're not always the best team. You're not always in the playoffs. You're not always competing for a World Series, or the Cubs even, but yet you always have a high payroll. But this Dodgers team and the way in these players that they have, Tommy, they are living up to the expectation. They're on their way to winning potentially back-to-back World Series championships and look like they are poised to be on a run for the next 5 years where they are the team to beat in the Major League Baseball.
I agree with that. And Dave Roberts is a good guy, good manager, former player, the whole bit. But they're loaded top to bottom. And, their 7, 8, 9 hitters can hurt you if need be. And getting a complete game out of Yamamoto last night's huge in the sense that all the bullpen arms got to rest, and then they have a travel day today. So that was a huge plus that may turn, because the Dodger bullpen hadn't necessarily been great all year. They've had their moments. So that complete game could be a reason why they win this series. And we'll see what happens. Could be a LA Seattle thing. That's the way it looks today. We'll see.
Seattle's not a perfect ball club by any means. They strike out a lot as a team. They don't hit with runners in scoring position over the course of the year. But yet, when you have a guy who is one of the best defensive catchers in the league and also arguably one of the top 2-3 hitters in the league, and Raleigh with the 60+ homers, it's a magical lineup, and it looks like some guys who have had years are rising to the occasion, in the postseason, which is, obviously what it takes. But, the Seattle may be one of the hottest teams, but the Dodgers, to me, they have the more ability. They've got the stacked roster. They've got the payroll. They've got the players that have done it. And so I'm not a Dodgers fan, but I can see the Dodgers being right there in the World Series, winning it, losing it for the next 5 years. LSU baseball visiting the White House. I got announced yesterday. Donald Trump in the White House, they're going on Monday to the White House. They're going to be one of a few spring sports teams. I don't have the list of who else is going, but there's other teams, not just LSU, that'll be there representing NCAA spring championship teams. I imagine basketball or track or whatever, softball, that will be going to the White House, and they'll be honoring them on Monday. One, it'll be curious to see if there's any people that don't go. There's always some sort of protest or something. Now, I don't expect that from LSU players, but any other teams that, players don't go out of protest for the president, that I'm curious about that. Two, I'm excited for these players, They are the first team to go to the White House to meet the president since 1991. In the past, there've been an LSU team that went to the White House, met the vice president, but not the president. And I can tell you, as someone who was on that team in 1991, Tommy, to get to go to the White House, if you could hit that mute button, TK, I don't know all that noise in the background there. As someone that went to the White House in 1991, I can tell you that it is a memory of a lifetime. It is something that these players will cherish and remember for a lifetime. And as you get older and 53 years of age, you remember less and less from that season, right? You remember less and less moments from 1991. You remember the national championship and the dog pile and the celebration and the hugging and crying and what those moments were like. You remember the after party, and you can remember some moments throughout the season of play, or some big games. But those moments of the game part get fewer and fewer. Those memories, less and less. Do you remember? You remember the other things, and the White House is definitely an experience that was super vivid for me.
Oh no, it's amazing that you got to do that. And like you say, you're talking about it right now. And I've been to the White House, but not in that type of situation. So yeah, it's going to be a special memory for LSU baseball, and it just furthers the brand. Skip Bertman always talks about the brand. Well, there's going to be news coverage that LSU is among the teams at the White House on Monday. So it can't hurt the publicity.
So I'll tell you a story about that White House trip. So myself and Mike Neal, who was my roommate from Hammond High, Mike, we were playing baseball in Alaska for the Anchorage Glacier Pilots, and we got a notification at some point in the summer that we were being invited to the White House. And the way they did it was everybody from Louisiana was going to be on a commercial flight, charter flight, something like that. They were going to leave and all go together, and they wanted everybody to kind of come to Baton Rouge to meet. But for those of us that were off playing summer ball or were far away, they allowed you to just fly to DC to meet the team there and get on the bus and go to White House. Well, when we were traveling, they sent the plane tickets. So we flew Northwest Airlines from Anchorage to Minneapolis. Northwest Airlines doesn't exist anymore. We got to Minneapolis. We had a layover. Well, they had a problem with the plane, and when they weren't going to be able to, they had to put everybody on a different flights, and so we were going to miss our flight to the White House, missed meeting up with everybody and get to the White House. So there's this long line of people that are waiting to get to the front, to get rerouted on different flights and all that. And Mike and I are standing in this line. If we wait through this whole line, we might not even make it, right? So I cut the line, go up to the front. Here's two 19-year-olds in suits. I don't even think I had a bag. It was just two 19-year-olds in suits. And I get to the front of the line. Excuse me, ma'am, I'm so sorry, but listen, we're trying to get to the White House. We're meeting the president today. And so, believe it or not, I was able to explain the situation well enough to where they believed me. And they ended up putting us on a completely different airline. I think we jumped on United. They booked us on a complete different airline. Actually, we had first class seats from Minneapolis to Chicago off flight. They got us over to Chicago, then got us on a flight over there from Chicago to DC. We got to Washington DC. We missed the team. The team had already headed to the White House on the charter bus. So when we get to the airport in DC, I think I don't remember who I called. I remember I called like maybe the secretary at LSU or something, and they told me what to do and said, "Look, just to take a cab to the back gate of the White House. Your name will be there waiting for you and all that kind of stuff and let you in." So we jumped in a taxi, a Middle Easterner. I can remember he had something dangling from the front window that was, I had never seen before. We get to the back gate of the White House, which you can't even do anymore. Now they have perimeters that are further away and all that kind of stuff. But literally like a little guard shack at the back gate of the White House. Give them our names. We jump out right there, walk in, go into the Rose Garden where they had a ceremony. All my teammates, everybody's already seated in their chairs, in the rows of seats in the Rose Garden. It was also the 50th anniversary of Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio's miraculous season from 1941 when Ted Williams hit over 400 and Joe had 56 game hit streak. They were there as well. They were being honored by George H. Bush. It was also the day of the All-Star game in Toronto, so they were going to leave that ceremony, and the three of them, Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio, and George H., were going to the All-Star game to throw out the first pitch in Toronto. And so we kind of piggybacked that ceremony, and they honored our team as well. And I remember, me and Mike basically getting there just in the nick of time, 5, 10 minutes or so before the ceremony began, and sitting there. I sat right behind Bart Giamatti, the commissioner of Major League Baseball at the time. No, I'm sorry, Fay Vincent was it Fay Vincent was next to Bart. Something I think it was Bart Giamatti was the commissioner. He wasn't a commissioner long, and then he died, and then Fay Vincent I think took over. But it was a memorable experience. Skip Bertman didn't even go. He had had a hip replacement surgery, maybe a double. I don't know if it was a single or a double. He couldn't go. Sandy Bertman represented him. Smoke Laval represented our team as the coach. Smoke got to present George H. with a jersey with his name on it, number from college, which was number 2, because he played first base at Yale, I believe.
Yeah.
And then we ended up taking a group photo that I still have framed of the team, the president, Joe DiMaggio, Ted Williams, all in the photo. One of my more cherished moments for sure. Friday, I'll tell you about the conversation I had with George H. That's really funny and involved Armando Rios. I'll tell you that story on Friday.
That's a hell of a story. Have you talked to Mike Neal lately?
It's been a minute. He's living outside the Dallas, Texas area. He's a nurse anesthetist. Has 2 kids. One of his daughters, I think, a big soccer player, and his son's a pole vaulter.
Well,
High school, college age.
I know you know this, but his dad was a professor at Southeastern, and
Bill,
he was
yeah.
my advisor. Dr. Bill Neal was my advisor, like when I'm scheduling classes, and then of course I had a few classes with him, and so I go back with the Neal family when Mike was a little bitty guy hanging out in his dad's office, and so that the Neal family and I go back quite a ways. And Bill,
And Mike,
when I graduated from Southeastern, Bill made a point, Dr. Neal, I should say, made a point to come congratulate me for finishing and talk to my mother and father and all that stuff.
that's great. No, they're Bill and Rita Neal. His mom Rita
Yeah.
was a librarian forever at Ponchatoula High. Mike actually played the AAA baseball, got all the way up to AAA with the Houston Astros, and was on the New Orleans Zephyr championship team along with Lance Berkman in the late 90s. I don't know exactly the year. I'm going to say 97, 98, somewhere up in there, up in that time. They won the championship down at the Zephyrs, like the AAA American League Championship. Berkman and Neal were on that team together, and I went to the finals game, and I remember, going down on the field and celebrating with them and congratulating them after the game or something back in the late 90s.
Man, that's cool, man. Great memories. That's cool. Real cool.
Yeah. All right, TK, tell us about Tremonti's Meat and Seafood.
Well, today is Wednesday. That means $6.99 to get you a burger and fry. You can get it to go. You can also eat it here, and you can order online now at Tremonti's, pickup or delivery. Go to tremontis.com, figure it out from there. You can order online, pick up or delivery, and a little more than a month from now, we'll have all the fried turkeys, rotisserie turkeys, smoked turkeys, tradition here at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. But order online, tremontis.com, pick up or delivery. Next episode of Sports Shorts Daily will be on Friday morning. I'll be back here at Tremonti's. And don't forget, this Saturday, brought to you by Jones Construction Solutions, we'll be out at the Most Blessed Sacrament Church Fair doing Sports Shorts Radio, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Derry Beckwith will be in the house, national championship middle linebacker for LSU. Hunter McCann, who's the MBS graduate, will join us via the phone, busy with his WBRZ stuff, but a little change on the clock due to the LSU Vandy kick. So 9 to 11 this Saturday morning live from the church fair, church and school, Most Blessed Sacrament here in Baton Rouge. So I want you to check that out. We'll tell you more about that on Friday. On behalf of Ronnie Rance, I'm Tommy Christ. Have a great day, everyone. We'll talk to you again soon.